Father, I thank you so much for speaking through the worship team, just the words that were spoken that connects to who you are, that connects the commitment that you have towards us. If you were connected to those words, if that prophetic word was for you, know that that's how much God is committed to you. Each lyric sung is something saying of how God is committed to you. The fact that he allowed his life to be ended so that you will be able to connect with him. He is committed to you to the end. Listen, I want to add on to that, where a father allows his son to be crushed for you. That's how committed he is for you. And that alone is enough for everything. A couple weeks ago, my wife and I, we watched The Passion of the Christ, and we were looking at this thing, and I'm like, I can't believe I'm watching this because I know what's coming, but as they're hitting him and beating him and whipping him, I'm wanting to get up and go into the movie and tell them to stop, that's enough. Yet he had the power to say, stop, that's enough. But yet love was keeping him going. That's how committed he is to us. And so those songs that we sung, him desiring us to come closer to him, I don't want you guys to take that lightly, because that is a call from the lover of our souls. It's weird how God works. It really is. I mean, if you think about him allowing his son to die for us, there's no greater commitment. Like, you can sign a contract, you can put money down on something, you can do whatever, you can commit to family, but there is no greater commitment than dying for somebody. That's it. That's all you have. But yet Jesus showed, no, I got even more. He went beyond what we could naturally commit to and said, this is how committed I am to you. So he works in different ways. And as we're in this journey right now, talking about the mystery of the roadway, kind of trying to see God, like last week, Pastor Art was just talking about, you can't figure him out. You can't make him like a formula to understand how God works. He just works different from what we understand. And that's what we're going to continue talking about. It's just how different he works. So today, I can't help but think about the classic joke. When I think about starting my message, I can't help but think about the classic two men walk in a bar, right? You know, when you hear that, you're going to hear something like a cat walks in a bar, like something's coming that you're about to hear. And, you know, one that's funny that I saw online, actually my wife would like this because she's like a grammar person, and Pastor Sharon, Bree, like it was kind of nerdy, so be ready. It says, the past, the present, and the future walk in a bar. It was tense. It's so corny. That's why I'm laughing. It's just so corny. It's like, oh, come on, please. But, you know, I think about that when I think about starting this message, and I want to say, a naked guy runs around town. Yep, a butt naked dude runs around town. And nope, it's not a joke. This actually happened, and yet God uses that to show us how he works differently in our lives. He used that moment in time to show us what we would need today. So I know it's kind of like weird, like, what are you talking about? But yes, a naked dude runs around town, like he's crazy. The dude is possessed or whatever. And I don't know what he's doing. He's possessed. He's probably going around doing crazy things. And like, I could imagine women with their children, like, oh my goodness, like all this stuff is out, right? And it's like, oh, block their eyes, like, oh, this is disgusting. I mean, the people got so tired of this guy, they took chains, locked him up, shackled him up, and yet somehow he Incredible Hulked that thing and just broke out. This is something that happened. It's ridiculous. So if you're hearing this, it's like, what is going on? That's what the people are witnessing. This dude is crazy. Not only that, he doesn't live in his home, he lives near the tombs. And you would think, yo, what is going on with this guy? He's possessed. But yet God, again, uses it to show us something that we need to learn about how he works differently. So this right here happened. If you could turn to Luke 8, verse 26. And so I'm going to explain what happened with this guy. Jesus is just now finishing doing his thing where he does the miracle on the boat where the storm is going crazy. The disciples are scared, and he says, look, peace be still. Guys, why didn't you have enough faith? All that great stuff that Jesus did. And now, from that point, they're coming in, landed on the spot, and now I'm going to read to you what happened. So Luke 8, verse 26. Then they sailed to the country of the Gerasenes, which is opposite Galilee. When Jesus had stepped out on the land, there met him a man from the city who had demons. For a long time he wore no clothes, and he had not lived in a house but among the tombs. When he saw Jesus, he cried out and fell down before him and said with a loud voice, "What have you to do with me, Jesus, Son of Most High God? I beg you, do not torment me." For he had commanded the unclean spirit to come out of the man. For many a time it has seized him. He was kept under guard and bound in chains and shackled. But he would break the bonds and be driven by the demon into the desert. Jesus then asked, "What is your name?" And he said, "Legion," for many demons had entered him. And they begged him not to command them to depart into the abyss. Now a large herd of pigs was feeding there on the hillside. And they begged him, let them enter these. So he gave them permission. Then the demons came out of the man and entered the pigs. And the herd rushed down the steep bank into the lake and were drowned. When the herdsmen saw what had happened, they fled and told it in the city and in the country. Then people went out to see what had happened, and they came to Jesus and found the man whom the demons had gone sitting at the feet of Jesus, clothed in his right mind, and they were afraid. And those who had seen it told how the demon-possessed man had been healed. Then all the people of the surrounding country of the Gerasenes asked him to depart from them, for they were seized with great fear. So he got into the boat, this is Jesus, and returned. The man from whom the demons had gone begged that he might be with him, but Jesus sent him away, saying, "Return to your home and declare how much God has done for you." And he went away, proclaiming throughout the whole city how much Jesus had done for him. Man, that is a lot going on, and I love the story. I've heard it so many times before in my life, but when I read it last, one part really hit me. And this is what I'm going to get into about today, about how God uses things differently from what we're normally used to or what we would do. And here's the part that's key. Back in verse 37, Then all the people of the surrounding country of the Gerasenes asked him to depart from them, for they were seized with great fear. You see, what's crazy to me is that you guys know about this crazy, demon-possessed man. You know for a while what he's been doing, crazy, naked, all of that stuff. Jesus comes in, heals him, has the demons come out of him, and the surrounding people, the surrounding cities say, yo, Jesus, leave. We don't want you here. What would cause them to do that? And Luke writes here, says it was fear. Fear seized them. Fear had a hold on them. And what I think is interesting is I want to talk about what caused them to respond that way, not to focus on the miracle, but to focus on the fact that fear seized them, and maybe because they saw the pigs that drowned. Like, I don't know what happened, but I know that there were two types of fear going on in there. So fear drew them away from Jesus, so much so that they didn't see the miracle. Now, when I think about fear, I was always taught to grow up and you gotta have faith. The opposite of faith is fear, all these things like that. So what I would do and what you would think is like, I don't want to be like these people. I'm not going to fear. I'm going to avoid fear, have faith. But I want you guys to be careful because I had to learn within myself that that's not the right mindset. Avoid fear, have faith. Now, yes, we definitely want to have faith at all times as much as we can, as much as God gifts us with faith. But this avoid thing, I want to talk about that. So let's talk about fear. Fear is just fear. The thing about fear is two key things. Number one, where are you positioned when the fear comes? And number two, what are you doing with the fear? Now, I'm going to break down why those are two key things that God is showing us in this passage. So going back to verse 37, those are the people that told Jesus, yo, get out of here. We don't want you here. I don't know what you're doing or what you did with that. Get out of here. We don't want you here, because fear seized them. They weren't the only group that had some type of fear in them. If you go back 2 verses later, verse 35, it says this: then people went out to see what happened. They want to see what happened, and they came to Jesus and found the man from whom the demons had gone sitting at the feet of Jesus, clothed in his right mind, and here it is, and they were afraid. So we got two groups. Verse 37, people who were feared, they told Jesus, leave. But verse 35, that group of people, they were hungry enough to see what is God doing, and yet they were afraid when they saw and they learned about it. But that fear was a different fear, obviously. That fear was a fear that drew them to God. That fear was a fear that acknowledged that, wow, you are almighty. That fear showed revelation of like something about Jesus that they never experienced before. That fear drew them closer to Jesus, while the other fear with the other group in verse 37 drew them away. So my first point that I want to get on is, where are you positioned when fear comes? Because fear will come. It's not about the feeling, it's about what we do with it. So my first thought is, where are you positioned when the fear comes? Why do I say, where are you positioned? Because if you look back at verse 37, then all the people of the surrounding country of the Gerasenes asked him to depart from them. These people who told Jesus, get out of here, we don't want you here, these people weren't even in the city. They weren't even around to see what happened. They weren't even connected with people who were there that experienced it. They had nothing to do with the situation, but all they did was hear this, hear that, and they weren't even in the same area as Jesus, but yet they said, when they heard about it, they said, nah, listen, Jesus, get out of here. I don't want you here or whatever. Now, you would think like, yo, what is wrong with you people? You don't see the fact that he did a miracle? Like, you don't see the fact that he did something great? Like, for me, I was reading it, I'm like, you guys are dumb. Like, what the heck is wrong with you? Like, are you serious? You really gonna tell them to leave? What did they miss out on? Jesus made his way through a stormy sea, to come over there. What did they miss out on that they told Jesus, leave, we don't want you here? And so for me, I'm like, yeah, that's terrible. I'm glad I'm not like those people. I'm glad I embraced Jesus. And then God caught me and said, are you sure you're not like that, Jag? Are you sure you're not like the people who told Jesus to leave? Are you sure you don't allow fear to seize you? So I had to check myself and think like, wait, what are you talking about? Like, how do we apply this to us today? Now, the second part about what fear can do is fear can mislabel what's really going on. And I want to talk about how mislabeling fear can cause damage. And this is how I can easily end up like those in verse 37, and I can reject Jesus and say, get away. So let me use this as an example. I'm up here right now. As I'm preparing for this message, this was a perfect example of God showing me my heart. As I'm preparing for this message, I'm thinking to myself, am I supposed to be speaking this message? I got a lot going on, man. Maybe I'm not even supposed to be talking about this specific message. Or maybe I'm not even supposed to be the person speaking at this time. Maybe I need to speak at another time. Or maybe, God, you're not just flowing through me the right way. Or maybe I need to take a pause with preaching. Like, all these thoughts were going through my head, right? And the reason that was going through my head is God showed me my heart. And he says, Jag, no, that's not what's going on. Jag, you're afraid. I'm like, I'm afraid? You have fear in you. And so he showed me why. So with this particular message that I'm bringing to you today, a couple of weeks ago, Bella was tested positive with COVID. So she had no symptoms, thank God. Everything is great. She's fine now. But what happened was we had to quarantine. So during the day, I'm taking care of her, occupying her, while Tiff is able to work because she's not as flexible. And then when the evening comes, I got to do the work that I couldn't do in the morning. I got to do it in the evening. It seemed like nonstop, but there was no time to myself to be able to sit and soak in God's word and just let it flow. All of that I love to do. There was no time for that. So come Saturday, the day before today, I'm here. I'm just like, okay, I am not where I usually am when I'm preparing. So then I start saying, oh man, maybe this is not the mess. Maybe I should, maybe that. I'm labeling it all these other things. I'm mislabeling all these other things and not realizing that the core of it, the true label is, Jag, you have fear. So the thing is, it's not about me having fear and all of a sudden I'm a terrible child of God. That's not how Jesus works. He wants us to be able to give up that fear. He doesn't want us to mislabel it because on this journey, listen, we are going to go through things. On this journey, the Holy Spirit is going to prompt us to do things that are not normal, that I would have done it this way. Why are you telling me to do this? It's uncertain, like what's going on. But he's going to use those moments to draw out of us things that he wants us to see. He already knows it's in there. And one of those things, for example, here was pulling fear out of me so that he can address it. Because as long as I keep it held into myself, as long as I mislabel it, he won't be able to address it for me to see. So that's a little example. Let's get to something a little more dangerous with mislabeling fear. I was reading a book about racism, and there was a dope quote in there. And that quote, it said, "The loveliest trick of the devil is to persuade you to think he doesn't exist." The loveliest trick of the devil is to persuade you to think he doesn't exist. Why is that important? It's a mislabel. It's saying, oh, there's no devil, right? So this book was talking about racism and saying, like, people, those who try to make it seem like, yo, racism doesn't exist. But this is talking about how the enemy loves to mislabel things. Why? Because then it tells us that we don't have to fight back on what he's doing. We're not going to work against him. In fact, we'll start believing lies from him. So I'm going to give one other example of how the enemy wants things mislabeled. So here's an example. I purchased something online that was a bit expensive, a little more expensive than I was comfortable with, but I got it anyway, right? And so immediately, give me the tracking number. I got an app. It'll show me where it is in the whole United States, and it'll track it and everything. I love it. So the day comes where it says, oh, okay, it's going to arrive today. So I'm excited. I'm like, all right, I'm ready to go. I come home, and it's being tracked from USPS, the post office. I come home, and I see this little tiny box. I'm like, what I purchased, that doesn't fit in this box. Like, what's going on? So I pick up the box. It says USPS, and I'm like, all right, the phone says I'm getting something today. Okay, why would USPS come twice? Okay, it was for Tiffany. So I'm like, all right, here's the box. Where's my stuff? I want to know where my thing is at. So I was in the car in front of our house, and I was on a call with my mentor, and we were just talking, and I get a ping on my phone saying it's delivered. What's delivered? My package was delivered. And it does this app does like, yay, it's delivered. And I'm not feeling like, yay. I'm like, I don't see any USPS truck coming to deliver a package. I look at the steps while I'm on the phone, and the guy's talking to me, like pouring into me. I'm like, yeah, oh, sure. Like, where's my package? So I start freaking out. I'm like, was it delivered somewhere else? Or does somebody have my package? Did it not come? All of that is going through my mind, and I'm not even like paying attention on the phone. I'm disengaged, and I'm trying to focus. I'm like, listen, I need to focus. You can't do anything about this right now. You'll call USPS. So I called them after, and I say, nobody gets on the phone. I got to dial in the tracking number. And then after I dial the tracking number, it says, oh, it's in another city. I'm like, what are you talking about? It's in another city. Yo, this thing is expensive. And then right after they say it's in this city, they say, well, but you could pick it up in this city. I'm like, yo, I'm done. What is going on right now? Why did it have to be this package? Why couldn't it be like a bill from like a company, like a utility bill? Like, why did it have to be this package? So next day, I go to USPS. I say, yo, this is what's going on. Where's my package? The lady says, oh, let me take a look at this. Oh, okay, I don't really think your package was meant to be delivered yesterday. And I don't think it was delivered anywhere. I think it's going to go out and be delivered today. So eventually it was delivered that day. But here, like, think about what just happened. I was using a tool to help with my reality, to know where something was in my life, right? To know the status. But this tool, the lady was like, yeah, somebody was lazy. They must have scanned something, and it just said that it was coming, and it wasn't really. And think about it. That wasn't the truth. Now let's go back to the enemy. He uses lies for us to believe so that we can change the reality. I got frustrated. I got angry. I got concerned. For what? For no reason, because someone lied. And that is exactly what the enemy does. He mislabels things so that he can change our reality to something that's not of God, to an experience that God wants us to experience something totally different from what we're experiencing at that moment where fear kicks in, where we believe the lie. And so why that's so dangerous is that we won't be able to see how the enemy is working on this roadway that we're on the things that God is already trying to move us in a direction that is already mysterious, that is different from the norm. And now the enemy is trying to come in and give us lies and change our mind. So what does God want us to do? What does God want us to do when fear kicks in? We already know we got to position ourselves close to him, and we already know that we can't mislabel the fear. What does he desire? He desires this. I don't know if you guys remember, or some of you may have heard of how Jesus fed 5,000 plus people with only 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. If you haven't heard the story before, let me just do a brief summary. So Jesus is preaching to like 5,000 men, not even including the women or kids. So a bunch of people, and it's getting late. And the disciples come up to him and say, listen, we gotta tell these guys to go because we're far away from the land and they're gonna get hungry. And Jesus is like, you feed them. I'm like, if I were the disciple, I would have been mad. Like, Jesus, you already know we don't have enough food to feed them, and we're not gonna go all the way that far. Like, what are you saying, Jesus? It's like, you feed them. And so Jesus says, all right, go find out what's out there. So they go, they see this one boy who had 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. So they get it. It's like, listen, this is all we got. Jesus then multiplies it, feeds everybody, and still has more left over. That's crazy. Now let's rewind, because I don't want you to miss this. This is what God wants us to do on a daily basis. The boy. I want you to focus on the boy who had the 5 loaves and fish. What if the boy was like, hold up, the disciple comes like, hey, you got anything? I'm like, I got 5 loaves and 2 fish. Wait, hold on. Hold up. I did my part. I prepared. Like, I did my part. I brought the food. I knew we were going far, and I'm hungry, and you want to take my food for 5,000 plus people? Like, are you crazy? No. Like, what am I going to lose out on? What am I going to miss out on? Like, I'm not going to be able to eat. So he could have easily been like, nah, I'm good. Like, he would have been certain to know that I can eat. He never heard somebody say, Jesus, one time he took all this food and multiplied it. Some dude gave him it. You could do the same. He didn't hear that. He didn't experience that at all, but he actually gave it up. But I always wonder, what if I was in that scenario? I would have been like, am I going to lose my food, or am I not going to eat? Now let's go back to the naked, demon-possessed guy. Think about the people who told Jesus to leave, rejected, right? They might have mislabeled Jesus as a sorcerer. And because they labeled him something he's not, their reality changed. This young boy who had 5 loaves, 2 fish, decided to not label the situation off of fear of losing or missing out. He decided to give it up to Jesus and allow Jesus to work with it. Now think about it. For me, in my personal life, I have fears. I know a bunch of you have fears too. I have fears. I'm going to be straight up. One of my fears is that God is calling me to do things that require me to go full blown, but I am afraid. I fear him not taking care of me. I fear him not providing for me. I fear, I don't know, us not having the things we want. Like, I fear those things, and I'm being straight up. Not trying to sound like I'm this tough spiritual, I'm going to go into the fire and nothing's going to hurt me. I'm not going to act like that. But I fear that. So I say that to God. I tell him honestly, and he's like, you know what? Thank you for that. Thank you for those 5 loaves and 2 fish. You're like, wait, what are you talking about? Because what the 5 loaves and 2 fish represent is God saying, just give me what you have. even if it's being afraid. Allow me to take it and bless it and convert it to something that draws you close to me. That's the whole point of this roadway, is that we would draw close to him. Yeah, it's weird how he works, but he doesn't want you to allow fear to push you away from him. He wants you to give the fear to him so he can use it to draw you close to him. That's what he desires for us. And I'm trying to see, like, Lord, what do you desire from me to make the next step? Just be honest with you and just tell you, I'm afraid. What, can you do something with this? Yeah, I got you. Just I want you to give it up to me. There's a verse in 1 John 6 where it talks about how perfect love casts out fear, right? And I hope we all believe in that, but it takes us allowing the fear to surface up and give it up for God to do his work. But if we hold it to ourselves, we become self-reliant, and then we begin to say, Jesus, I'm going to ask you to step away. Let's not turn into that. Let's not let fear on this journey tell us to draw away from Jesus, even though we don't intend that. Let's allow fear to be given up to Jesus. Here, take this, and convert it to intimacy. Isn't that weird? Like, how does God do that, where he converts fear into intimacy, where he converts fear to being the beginning of wisdom, to knowing him? Like, he takes something that in our day we would think like, yo, I have no fear, nothing, but he uses that. That's what amazes me about him. He doesn't work like we work. He doesn't do things like we would do things. One thing that really hits me when I think about fear and how I want to avoid it or things like that with that mindset. How many of you guys play Jenga? Is it Jenga or Jenga? Can somebody tell me? Jenga. I keep calling it Jenga. But Jenga, right? You got all these wooden blocks or planks or whatever you want to call it. It's set up, right? And you're taking things out. That's the point of the game. And now, if you were to take everything out from the bottom, right, it would eventually just crash because it has no support. So that one little thing, that one little wood piece can be taken out and destroy everything, right? Now, I say that to say this. This is how I treat, and some of you might feel the same way, how I treat moments in my life where I'm worried, where I fear not doing things right. I take a one moment and think that one moment of a mistake or failure or fear will destroy everything God has for me. It's just going to plummet down. Eternity is not going to look the same for me. It's just going to destroy everything. And we laugh at that because we know that's not the case, but at that moment, we treat that moment like that's going to happen. Even though we don't intentionally think that's going to happen, how we treat the moment, we're like, yo, this is going to destroy everything. And so why I bring this metaphor up is for us to realize that, no, that's not how God works. And in those moments of being afraid, of fear, for me, like I said, like, is he going to provide for me? All of that. There's nothing that can be done that would destroy everything that God is trying to do in your life, that would destroy the commitment he has towards you. It's already been solid, won. He already championed it by when he died on the cross for you, for me. So it's locked in. Now it's just about living. He's so committed to you. There's no greater commitment out there. So we need to not look at this one moment in our life that can destroy everything, but we need to allow that moment to say, God, here, can you convert this into intimacy? Because I'm scared right now. Can you draw me close? I remember this one story about people who were captured, missionaries who were captured in a different country, and they had them there, and they were like killing people, and all they had was each other, and they were praying and quoting scripture, and they were so scared. But after they were rescued, after they came home, and everything was cool, some of them would talk to each other like, Dad, I know we could have died and all, but don't you miss how close we were to God? I can't mimic that again. Isn't that weird? They were near death. They could have been killed, but that moment, they allowed Jesus to convert it into intimacy that they can't even mimic again, being back home in comfort. How do you do that, Lord? So the moments that fear can have its opportunity to hit us, don't run away from it. Don't mislabel it. Don't try to make it anything else, but just be real and say, I am scared right now. I have fear, but Father, can you take this, convert it into intimacy so that I would draw close to you and receive what you have for me. Father, I love you so much. I thank you for who you are. I thank you that we don't get you. Thank you that we can discover you in new ways. Lord, help us not to look at situations that happened in the past where you are modeling something that you're trying to teach and assume that we're on the good side. I ask that you begin to reveal our hearts. Where is it that we push you away? Where in our lives do we push you away? Where in our home, in our body, like that we don't allow you to come into this room or that room? Where do we do that, Father? Open our eyes. For those who are listening, I want you to understand that he is so committed to you. I spoke about 5 loaves and 2 fish, but he wants you to hear this. There's no life that you can live. There's no sin or damage or evil or whatever thoughts you had or have done. There's nothing that you could have done that he can't take it and make it into something glorious. Those people, the disciples, thought that you can't do anything with this, Jesus. It's 5 loaves and 2 fish, but yet he took it and made it out of something. He's saying that he could take wherever you are right now in your life, no matter what your past, and he can transform it into anything he desires as long as you're willing to take your life and say, here, like, I don't know what you could do with this, Jesus, but you said you can do something with it. And I just want to give it to you. If that's you, I'm asking you right now to know that he is so committed that he will take whatever you got as long as you're willing to give it to him. So right now I'm asking that if you want him to do that for you, if you want him to take whatever you've been through and make it into something beautiful, I'm asking you right now to say this and repeat after me. Father, be Lord in my life. Father, I want an intimate relationship with you. And that's all he wants. He just wants you. Listen, there's nothing he needs in life. He is God, but he wants you. That's how committed he is to you. Listen, if you guys prayed that, or if you need guidance on this journey that we're on, we're talking about Roadway, just message us in our social media or email us on our website, whatever you need. We want to be able to provide and help however we can while you're on this journey trying to discover where is God taking you and how can he take my mess and convert it into something intimate. Thank you, guys.